Hey there, it's Dinosaur George answering all of your questions. This one comes from Chris from Hillsdale, New Jersey. He says, Dear Dinosaur George, one of my biggest passions is creating dinosaur illustrations. Good for you, man. We need good illustrators out there. Currently I'm working on a number of images that will be scanned and used on a PowerPoint for a college course about dinosaurs. Awesome, man. My question to you is, did sauropods have claws or nails on their front limbs? Aside from the sharp claws on one digit? If so, how many? My second question is about Dilophosaurus. Well, first let me get to your first one. Yeah, they did have visible claws on their front feet, and I think they had 5. I think they had 5 claws on their front feet. Yeah, they did have 5. They had that one big curved claw on the inside toe. That one's very visible. But they also had an additional 4 rounded toes. If you ever look at footprints, and you look at sauropod footprints, you can see the outline of the 4 smaller ones, and then of course that big one. My second question is about Dilophosaurus. Is it really a close relative of Ceratosaurus, or is it closer to more gracile animals like Coelophysis? Thank you so much. I was a huge fan of Jurassic Fight Club. Chris, thank you. I'm glad you were a fan of Jurassic Fight Club, and thank you for saying that. When you look at Dilophosaurus, it is a very gracile dinosaur. He's certainly considerably larger, and you know this, of Coelophysis. But bone for bone, he's very gracile. Now, Ceratosaurus is not an ultra heavy built dinosaur either, but I would say that from a skeletal perspective and looking at its body design, you would probably be better to lean your Dilophosaurus towards the slim, gracile, slender design of a Coelophysis and not a short, stocky, robust Ceratosaur kind of design. But hey man, when you get some artwork done, please send it to me. I would love to see it. And in fact, maybe I can do a story about you in our monthly newsletter and show some of your work. I'd love to do that for you. Okay, Ryan from New Lenox, Illinois said, who would win in a fight between Deinosuchus and Megalodon? Man, wouldn't that be a huge battle? Deinosuchus lived at the end of the Cretaceous. Megalodon comes along much later. So again, just from a science perspective, they didn't live it together at the same time. But if these two animals met, wow. My best guess would be that Deinosuchus's body armor is so heavy and so thick, even the powerful jaws of a Megalodon might have a tough time getting through it. It would be an incredible battle. Now, its underbelly, Meg, could certainly penetrate that. So, man, honestly, I think it'd be a toss-up. I think whoever gets in the first bite is the winner. But it would be cool. That would be a great fight. Okay, Michael from Newtown, Connecticut. Was Anatotitan and Nanotyrannus their own species? Because it seems to be some paleontologists say that Anatotitan was just a large Edmontosaurus. And he says, one of my friends said Nanotyrannus might be a juvenile T-Rex. Well, here's the deal. Anatotitan has enough distinguishing features to put it into category as its own dinosaur. Yes, it's very similar to Edmontosaurus, but think of it this way. There are small rhinos and there are giant rhinos. But these two, like the white rhino and the Sumatran rhino, are 2 different sizes, but they're clearly 2 distinctively different animals. It's the same thing with Anatotitan and Edmontosaurus. As for Nanotyrannus, I'll tell you, there is one paleontologist in particular who tries his best to convince everybody in the world that Nanotyrannus is actually a juvenile Tyrannosaurus Rex. Well, I've studied the skeleton of a juvenile Tyrannosaurus Rex, a real one, and I've looked at the skeleton of Nanotyrannus. They are completely and totally different dinosaurs. We're getting ready to announce the discovery of this juvenile T-Rex, and when you see the evidence, you'll be stunned at the difference. So Nanotyrannus is absolutely and clearly its own species, and a juvenile Tyrannosaurus Rex looks nothing like it. And again, when we do this show, you'll see what I'm talking about. Daniel from Kings Lynn, England wrote, what is the heaviest theropod? You know, I think it's Gigantosaurus. I think they suggest Gigantosaurus could be upwards of 9 tons. I think that might be a little bit high. Maybe it's closer to 8. But whatever the case, it appears that Gigantosaurus's mass equates to the heaviest of theropods. If he's not the heaviest, then it's Tyrannosaurus Rex, in my opinion. Erik from Den Helder, the Netherlands said, hey DG, I have a question about disease. This is cool. I read a little time ago that dinosaurs could have had cancer. How do they know they had it? And what kind of cancer? And then he signs Erik from Holland. Erik, brilliant question. One of the difficulties about determining disease is when we're looking at the fossilized bones, most diseases don't leave any sign on the bone. Like a respiratory disease, there would be no evidence whatsoever that's available to us that I'm aware of that would tell us that any dinosaur had diseases. But it makes all the sense in the world that they did have disease because all animals deal with it. But the only cancerous evidence we could find would be if it deteriorated the bone. Then we can determine whether something had cancer or not. If it is a bone deteriorating disease. Bones tell us a lot of information. We can find some bones that show us that, well, let me show you something. This one. Here's a set of vertebrae. I don't know how well you can see this or if you can see this at all, but these two vertebrae used to be separate, but they're fused together right here. What it shows is there was an injury and it grew together. This lump actually represents where these bones were fused together. So bones can give us a lot of information, but they don't necessarily give us clear indication of disease unless it was a disease that deteriorated the bone. All right, George from Harpenden, UK. George, you've got the best name of anybody that's ever written to me. Good for you. He says, Dear Dinosaur George, I'm a big fan of giant predatory dinosaurs, and I'd like to know which ones are really considered giant predators. Thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from you. And he signs it, George. Well, George, when we say giant predators, I would class dinosaurs like Dilophosaurus, Albertosaurus, Allosaurus, who else? Of course, Tyrannosaurus. Oh gosh, I would say this. Any predator over 30 feet, in my opinion, would be considered a giant predator because under them are a bunch of medium-sized predators, Ceratosaurus, Dilophosaurus, Nanotyrannus, Utah Raptor, and then there's the small ones, the little raptors and Coelophysis and Compsognathus and those guys. But I would say that a good rule of thumb would say that if it's bigger or longer than 30 feet, then that is what I would consider to be a giant dinosaur, a giant predator. Okay, my friend Raptor from Lexington, Kentucky says, George, how's it going, man? It's going well, Raptor. Thank you for asking. He says, I hope you're practicing good hygiene, especially during the whole swine flu uproar. You know, that's a good point, Raptor. That's actually a pretty good point. I'll tell you this. I absolutely, because I meet so many people and I shake so many hands, I make it a point to wash my hands 1,000 times a day just because I'm trying to protect myself, and I hope everybody else does the same. He says, I love this, he says, anywho, I wanted to ask you about the toothless rhamphorhynchoid you said you examined about a month ago, and do you mind in giving me a quick lesson on pterosaurs? Because he's a little fuzzy on pterosaurs. Well, first of all, Raptor, I know you absolutely know your dinosaurs, but with pterosaurs, yeah, it's a little confusing. Basically, there's two forms. There are the rhamphorhynchoids and the pterodactyloids, and basically the difference is the rhamphorhynchoids usually have teeth and have a tail. The pterodactyloids do not have a tail and they don't have teeth. And other than that, then there's a lot of other similarities and dissimilarities, but that's really the biggest between the two is look at them. If they have a tail, then they're a rhamphorhynchoid. If they don't have a tail, they're a pterodactyloid. All right, listen, that's it for this segment. Thank you all for writing. If you have a question you want to send to me, go to dinosaurgeorge.com, click on the Ask Dinosaur George page, fill out the form and send it. Keep in mind, I get thousands of these every month and I can't always answer them. So if you do write to me and I don't respond, I'm sorry, but I try to get to them as often as I can. Thank you guys so much and take care of yourselves. For you young people, practice your reading, practice your manners, and I will see you all soon. Take care.